Okay, there we go. That sounds much, much better. I was going to say we appreciate Mr. Neumann being with us today, but I also appreciate you being with us today. You who have demonstrated the intestinal fortitude to join us on such a beautiful day. You could be outside enjoying our 70-degree weather. Instead, you're in here learning about the major issues and challenges that face the state of Wisconsin. So again, thanks to all of you for being with us today. One of the things that we've done in this series of conversations is to ask the candidates why. Why are you doing it at this particular moment in your life? Most people know you from your days as a congressman, but you're a home builder. You're a businessman by trade.
Right.
You took about 10 years off from politics, a little more than that. Came very close to beating Russ Feingold in the race for U.S. Senate back in 1998. But now you want to get back in. Why?
First time we ran for office, we put our business aside. It was 16 years ago, and we had just returned from a trip to our nation's capital. And as you tour the nation's capital, we really got a feeling of patriotism and what our nation's all about. At that point in time, our family was busy in our business world. Our kids were in church schools, were very active in all the things in the community. Our business was going great. And when we toured those monuments, you really get a sense that America, Wisconsin, is about more than living the American dream. It's about more than family, and it's about more than being successful in business. It's about having a wonderful opportunity in this country that people would not have elsewhere. At that time, we were facing huge deficits as a nation. The debt was growing. We had massive job loss to Mexico. Does any of that sound familiar? I guess when I look at our society today, we've been back in the private sector for 12 years. We've got a good number of businesses going. We're providing job opportunities again here in Wisconsin, meeting a payroll every week. But when I look at the future and the possibility of future for our children and our grandchildren in this nation, I see serious problems that we're facing today, and I hope that as we were back then, that we can once again be a part of this thing and part of the solution.
So you're concerned about the direction of the state of Wisconsin.
Very.
That's what's motivating you.
Very concerned. And, the thing is, Wisconsin, you said it's a beautiful day out there. We're watching the spring. The buds come out. I love the fall. Wisconsin is such a beautiful place. It's a wonderful spot to raise a family. We have so much going for us here in terms of quality of life. But if you don't have a job, you can't stay. So when I think about today and the people that are here that are out of work, when I think about my kids, and I've got 3 beautiful grandchildren now, I want them to have an opportunity to raise their family right here in Wisconsin, and as it stands today, that future is in jeopardy. And I hope we can be a part of turning that around. You have a tough primary battle on your hand. You're running against, among others, the Milwaukee County Executive, Scott Walker. What was the name again? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Sorry.
How do you differentiate yourself from someone like Scott Walker?
I think it's background, and I think that's the choice the people in the state have to make. And I think if Scott were here, he would tell you that he's prepared to be governor of the state of Wisconsin because he served 8 years in the Assembly in a political office representing the Milwaukee area. And after that, he spent Milwaukee County representing the Milwaukee area again. And those 16 years in political office representing the Milwaukee area has prepared him to be governor of the state of Wisconsin. I think that's what he would tell you. And I would suggest to you that at this particular moment in history, what we need is someone from the private sector to step forward, someone with job-creating experience outside of government to step forward to lead our state. Once this thing gets turned around and the economics are back in place in this state and we're seeing jobs come back to the state, I'd be happy to step aside and let someone else do it again. But the choice that people are going to have to make is what kind of background do you want in your governor? And I think they should take a good close look at our resumes and decide which resume they think is best preparation for leading the state of Wisconsin for the next 4 or 8 years.
A couple of times in the past, you have referred to both Mayor Barrett, the likely Democratic candidate, and the county executive as career politicians. I'll ask you a very blunt...
Not in a negative way, though. I mean, that's honorable. I mean, I don't perceive being a career politician as something that's dishonorable. I think it's an honorable career to serve in government. I think it's an honorable career to serve as a state employee. I think it's honorable to run for office. I don't think they're bad things. But there are times in history where career politicians are not the right people to lead our nation. And if we look back in history, this nation was made great by people coming out of the private sector, serving their government, and then returning to the private sector. And I just happen to think that we are at that particular point in history today.
Does a life in the public sector, as both Mayor Barrett and County Executive Walker have done, does that make you qualified to be able to talk about bringing jobs to the state of Wisconsin?
Rather than talk about let's go the other way and say if you have been in the private sector and you've actually built businesses and created jobs out in the private sector, I've had to deal with firsthand what government interference in the business world is. I understand when they say that we're the 47th worst state in America to do business in the Forbes study, or when they talk about the loss of more jobs in the Milwaukee area, Milwaukee metropolitan area, than any other metropolitan area in the country except Detroit, I'm already living that on the front lines. I'm seeing that in the business. This business climate in the state of Wisconsin, I see it firsthand. I see the rules and the regulations, the time it takes to get a permit. One of our Main Street visits, we were just talking to somebody who wanted to expand his business here in Wisconsin, and he's competing. He's in a bigger corporation. He's competing to get the jobs here to Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, it was going to take him 2 years to get a permit that was going to take 9 months in a different state, and he got taken completely out of the running for getting the jobs here to Wisconsin. So I've got the experience on the front lines. I've actually had to live with this stuff, and if we're going to turn the business climate around so that jobs and businesses and the jobs that come with them are going to come to Wisconsin, stay here, and expand here, we probably should have someone in there who understands what these rules and regulations are and how they actually harm the business climate.
Well, let's talk about what's missing specifically, in your opinion, from the state's business climate. What is it? What should we be doing that we're not currently doing?
Well, I would start with, as we did when I went to Washington, D.C., we started with a theory that if we could control government spending, we could bring down taxes, and if we cut taxes, people would keep more of their own money, and when they kept more of their own money, they would do one of two things. They would either spend it, and that would mean jobs would be created because somebody had to provide the goods and services that they were spending it on, or they would save it, in which case it would become capital for business growth and expansion. So when you say, what should we do different? I start with get government spending under control so that we can systematically and significantly reduce taxes in our state. And when we reduce taxes, it will lead to a better job environment and it will make us more competitive. But I wouldn't stop there. I would go into education next. I think education is extremely important, and if we can gain a reputation as a state of having the best educated kids in the world, that will be a very high priority of our administration. And if we do manage to do that, and when we get on that path, it's going to help us attract businesses, because when business owners are deciding and business leaders are deciding where to go with their jobs, they're looking at the environment that they live in, and education is a big, important part of that environment. So taxes, get them reduced, best educated kids in the world, and then on to the rules and regulations, get government out of the way. I'm very concerned about rules and regulations as they relate to the environment. I think some of the things that we're doing as it relates to the environment and those rules and regulations are detrimental to business, and that needs to be fixed. We need to find other ways to achieve our environmental goals while at the same time being business friendly with the regulations that we put in place.
Given the somewhat precarious nature of the state's finances, how quickly could you move on reducing taxes? What's realistic?
Fairly quick. And again, I point back to past experience because I've been through this once before. When I went to Washington, and that was 16 years ago, I went to Washington, we had huge deficits in the federal budget. We had a plan to systematically get to balance and then into surplus so we could cut taxes, and it's exactly what we got done. The way we did it is we controlled the growth rate of spending. We understood that revenues grow to a government because of real growth in the economy, and that's not hard to understand. If a business locates here, that's real growth in your economy. The people that work at that business pay taxes, and that increases revenue to the state government. So revenues to government grow because of real growth in the economy, and they grow because of inflation. And again, that's not hard to understand. If you have a job and you get a pay raise, that's inflation. You pay more taxes. So with revenues growing with the sum of real growth in the economy plus inflation, if you can hold the growth rate of spending to 1% under the rate of inflation, you will reach a balance shortly. And after you reach that balance point, you can start reducing taxes very quickly. If you look on our website at markforgov.com, there's charts and graphs there that show exactly what I'm talking about and show how to get it done. But at the end of the day, I've been there once before. It was the federal budget. It was roughly 50 times larger than our state budget. We instituted the plan that we had. We fought our way through it. So I don't want to sit here and make it sound like we just went there on a white horse and fixed the problems. It was a knockdown, drag-out fight to get the job done. But we've been there before. I've been on the front lines doing it. We got the job done. When I left Congress 12 years ago, the budget was balanced. We were actually in surplus, paying down debt. We had passed the biggest tax cut in American history, and it worked. Jobs were being created all across the country, not government jobs, private sector jobs.